Hello? Glad you made it.
Are we live?
Welcome to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce...
Through the magic of television.
Hello there, dear listeners. Welcome to a very special edition of Through the Magic of Television, because this week I'm joined by the one and only David Williamson. Rather than discuss just one particular episode of one particular TV show that David was involved with, we decided to discuss his entire career of magic on TV, including an extremely rarely seen pilot for a TV commercial for a set of instructional tapes that he made with Harry Anderson. Now, those of you watching the video podcast version on Spotify, I have a confession to make. The first 10-15 minutes, the camera wasn't working. It does kick in after about 10-15 minutes, and there's still all the clips you'll expect to see. Those of you on Apple, if you want to watch the video version, then, well, just email me at ttmotvpod@gmail.com. Now here he is, the one and only David Williamson. So it's nice and conversational. There's no sort of... I record a separate intro. I put in clips, audio clips and video clips of anything that we chat about.
Oh, great. Wow. This sounds like a lot of work.
It is, yeah, it is. That's why it's good it's behind a paywall. Or as I like to refer to it, a barrier of entry. That's a good magic phrase. And also I put clips. I put the full specials in a thing I call the empty safe. Because Magician's Guard an empty safe, and I don't need that stuff being taken down for copyright.
Empty safe, I love it. Was that whose line was that? Was that Steinmeier's line? Or?
I think it's a Stein. It feels like a Steinmeier line, doesn't it?
Yeah,
So it must be. Yeah.
Great quote.
Yeah. So I guess let's begin, because I'd love to talk to you about various things, mainly the magic comedy strip. But there's this piece of, I think the internet would call it these days, lost media, which is this infomercial that you made with the legend that is Harry Anderson for a set of tapes, right? A set of Magic Dave's, or rather David Williamson's magic course. And I watched it because someone dug it out and put it on Slight School. And Jack showed me, and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I watched it and went, I think I want to call this 1-800 number.
You want to buy
these
it,
tapes.
Right?
Yeah, even though I don't think this is from like 1992 or something, right? So,
right. The tapes never got made, you know.
Oh, they never got made. So you just made this pilot.
They make the pilot and they test it.
Okay.
I'll tell you the whole story.
Yeah, go for it.
So both of my brothers were editors and in LA for TV and movies. They worked in a digital post-production house that did a lot of big movies and TV shows and so forth. And that's what they did. And my older brother, Bob, was working with a client, and they were a big maker of infomercial. In fact, they were this little company in Pennsylvania, in a little town. It's a family-run little business. Many years ago, before there was such a thing as an infomercial, they tested buying a half-hour ad, and they sold a pocketbook with different compartments and so forth, and they made a fortune. It was the first foray into that kind of marketing on television. So they kind of invented the infomercial, this little family-run company, and they realized that if they could get attention by hiring big stars like Cher and I don't know if you know Richard Simmons. He was very famous in America for all the weight loss, Deal a Meal, and that sort of thing. So they would get these Michael Landon, big stars in the 80s and 90s, to front these infomercials. And they made millions upon millions of dollars. So anyway, my brother was editing one of these infomercials for this company because Hollywood producers, they produce their infomercials in Hollywood with the best production and the big stars. And then they sell it to the American Midwest, you know. So my brother had just finished putting together my instructional tapes, Sleight of Dave, and it was very funny because they put a lot of funny little commercials in. It was very watchable for the public, or for the magicians and so forth. And he slipped that into the dailies of the producer, the young man who was the producer of this infomercial, the latest dailies. He goes, "Hey, I want you to watch my tape of my brother." And he goes, No, I don't care about that. But he snuck it in there. So when he went home, his kids found it. This producer's children found this tape, put it in, and couldn't stop laughing and loved it, and were trying to learn the tricks, even though it wasn't meant for beginners. And I got a call that night. It was 1 in the morning. I'm asleep, and I get a call in LA. It was 11 p.m. And this guy, Ed, who was a real go-getter, he was a type A, hard-charging kind of guy. They said, we got to make an infomercial. My kids are going nuts. They want you to teach them magic. I could see opportunity. I'm going to talk to my company. We're going to figure this out. And we met. I went to their offices, and they said, how about a series of tapes where you teach magic tricks? I said, yeah, that might be interesting. They go, we don't want you to teach any crap. We want you to teach the good stuff. I was like, well, there's ethical considerations. There's stuff that's public domain, but I can't just teach everything I know because was invented. And they go, hold that thought. And they said, there's a junior college professor in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who is making $40,000 a year as a part-time assistant junior college teacher. And he put together a little mimeographed program called Where There's a Will, There's an A, to help some of his students study better. It was a little program he put together that, he gave out. He goes, we turned that into an infomercial with Michael Landon. And I said, yeah, I've seen those infomercials. Just help your students get better grades and so forth. He goes, here's the check stub from his first check. $750,000, $750,000. That was his first. And then he starts stacking up all the other junior college pay stubs for his royalties, in this big pile in front of me. And I went, ethics, methics, what do you want to learn? But anyway, we agreed to go forward, and I got Mike Caveney, great magician, my good buddy, to help me put together this thing. And they got Harry Anderson to front the thing. They had to go through CAA. His agency didn't want to let him do it because it was an infomercial, but they were just paying too much money. And he would be up there with Cher and some other big stars.
And this is when Harry was on
this
Night
was when
Court,
Harry was popular.
Name.
Everybody knew him. He was on two TV shows at that moment, Cheers and Night Court. And it was the peak of his fame. He agreed to do it, and they built a soundstage at Raleigh Studios in Hollywood to the tune of $2 million. It was the world's most beautiful magic shop. It was decked out with posters and big props and sarcophagus, and it was just, you saw the infomercial. It was a beautiful set,
incredible,
incredible.
I assume all the punters are actors too, as in because it's LA.
They're all professional actors. Some of the little girl who helped me was later in feature films because they all had agents, and it was they got the Hollywood treatment when they made this. It wasn't just bringing my sister in to be the punter. They were hiring professional actors who went on to fame and fortune, many of them. And so anyway, Harry helped write the script for his own, he got everything had to get approved through his agency, big agency, and so forth. And they made the infomercial. Halfway through the shooting, the riots occurred in Los Angeles, the O.J. Simpson riots and all that. They had to shut down production. People were shooting at our producer, Ed, who used to drive this. He thought it was cool to drive a police car. He bought an old police car at auction. So he was being chased through the streets of L.A. on his way to the studio. They gave me a bodyguard. I was there with my wife and my 9-month-old son. And our bodyguard had a gun laying on this, while he's driving us back to our hotel in Beverly Hills, to avoiding fires, tires that were set on fire. And it was crazy. They shut down production. Months later, they rebuilt a couple, they pulled everything out of storage and finished shooting the infomercial. And, this whole time, I haven't been paid a penny. My whole deal was on spec. I just got a percentage, but I was like, that's fine. You can pay me what you paid the junior college guy. That's fine. Marcia, we're done, for life. So I got not 1 cent. Mike Caveney got paid for being the a co-writer. They gave him a brand new MacBook computer and some money, and everybody got paid except for me.
Except for Magic Dave.
Yeah, Magic Dave got nothing. I got the world's greatest, I have Harry Anderson walking down the street saying, the greatest magician in the world is David Williamson. You know what I mean?
Had a great show reel for a few years.
Yeah, I had a great show reel. But I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. It was crazy. It was amazing. Harry was great. Working with all these people was amazing. Then what they do is they have it down to a science.
Mhm.
And this is back in the 90s, early 90s. They show the infomercial in the middle of Omaha, Nebraska at about 3 a.m. in the morning. And they never made the tapes, they just to buy the thing, and they see how many they get, and they can extrapolate how popular it's going to be based on that one test.
Mhm.
And Marcia and I are waiting by the phone the next morning for the call, to hear the results. And they called, they said, "I'm sorry, we're only going to make tens of millions of dollars, not hundreds of millions. So we're just going to write this off and go to the next thing, which is a Kleenex dispenser or something. Who knows, whatever it is. So
The
that
joy
was the
mop
story
is
behind
probably-
that. Yeah, exactly. A
see.
mop. Yeah.
That's good. Were you living in Ohio then? You're in Ohio.
We were living in Washington, D.C. at that point.
Washington then. So you were just there like tens of millions is absolutely fine for us.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'll take
Yeah.
it. No, you don't understand. It's not worth our time.
It's such a shame. I will put this, if you don't mind, can I put this so listeners can watch it? Because the pairing of you and Harry Anderson it's really fun. You're similar energies, but two different energies, it really works. And it's such a pleasant watch. And honestly, he's doing a lot of the heavy lifting of the selling.
Oh, he's doing all the
bits
heavy
to
lifting.
camera.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm not, we became very good friends. We knew each other a little bit after that, but we became very good friends during that. And to this day, I contend that one of the reasons it failed, it was too well produced. It's like a TV sitcom. It's very slick. What you need are bad sweaters and a horrible audience and just bargain basement kind of pitch, old school selling. This was almost too subtle. I don't think people realized it was an infomercial. It felt like a sitcom or a TV show or something, So it won awards. It won awards at the infomercial awards, but it didn't sell. So, and I kind of blame his agency and who kind of forced it into that more theatrical rather than selling mold. But that's all water under the bridge.
Water under the bridge. Also, there's a couple of tricks in there. There's a great one with the pencil in the envelope.
Yeah, we got that. Pete Byro, that was his method for the rising cards, and he gave me permission to use that.
It's a good little trick. And also the one the little girl does with cutting the paper and restoring it. I watched it and went, I've no idea how that works.
Really? Oh, good.
Yeah. I guess
don't even know if I remember
blame...
that trick. I'm guessing it's the one with talcum powder and rubber cement, the strip of paper.
Yes, I assume so, yeah. Watching it again,
yeah.
I was like, I think you have to stick it together. I think I remember a little kid's book. But when I first watched it, I was like, wow. But, I'm a mentalist. What do I know? I know nothing.
You mentalists have no practical knowledge.
No, exactly.
This is your chance to learn all those mysteries of magic that you've always wondered about. You can order David Williamson's Secrets of Magic videotape by using your credit card and calling toll-free 1-800-772-5775. Your first tape will materialize in your mailbox at the special introductory price of just $19.95. Additional magic tapes will appear monthly on a 10-day trial basis at the regular series price. Keep only the tapes you want. You can cancel at any time. Dave's tapes are the perfect gift of wonder for you, your family, or friends. So start the magic today by calling 1-800-772-5775. This is a free call.
So was that 1992-ish that you made that?
I think it was 92, yeah.
Because to go from big, huge Hollywood production in 92, and then the other thing I really want to talk about, and Jack wants to talk about because he loves this show, is the Magic Comedy Strip, which was a little ITV show, Channel 3 here in the UK. Same year, I think, 92, 91, something like that.
It would have been about the same time, yeah.
So you went from, big Hollywood
because I remember my
to...
son was an infant there as well. So we bought our first pram in the UK during that shoot. So
I see. I see.
as you call it a pram, we call it a stroller.
Yes, a stroller, yeah, pram, buggy. That's another one here, a buggy.
Buggy, yeah.
So yeah, tell us about this show, because this is a John Fisher production, who famously here in the UK worked with Paul Daniels for the
Paul
first
Daniels, yeah.
10 years of TV of Daniels on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah,
and
he had the
many
Best
shows,
of Magic.
many
He
shows.
invited me on the Best of Magic. I did an episode of that. I never did
There's
the Paul
Disney's
Daniels
Night
show.
of Magic as well, which was like a Disney crossover thing for Disneyland Paris. He produced that.
Right.
Best of Magic, yeah. And John Fisher, because I only knew that name when I was younger, is that he's the guy that wrote Body Magic. And I loved
Body
the
Magic, exactly. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And he was was a real gentleman and a true historian of magic.
Oh, really? He's one of those.
Yes.
Because also, as a TV, you don't get shows like that anymore, mainly because the landscape of TV has changed. But that was the golden era, because there were producers of television that loved magic and knew how to
especially
make it
in the UK, yeah.
Especially in the UK, yeah. And so how did this come about? How did David Williamson from Ohio and the Pendragons and Rudy Kobe, and then very randomly for me as a kid from the late 80s, early 90s, Joe Pasquale, who was who was very famous here in the UK. And Jeff Hobson. And some other random guests as well. How did this all come about?
Here's the way that came about. It came about on a ship, on a cruise ship. The Magic, Ron Wilson, with Norwegian Cruise Lines, and is it Ron Wilson? Who am I thinking of? Yeah, Ron Wilson, the Scottish. Yeah, Ron Wilson. He was a booker at the castle for many years. He's booked the acts, and he had a relationship with Norwegian Cruise Line. He used to put different magic acts on Norwegian Cruise Line, and he put together a magic cruise. I think they may have done a few of them, but that year, I think it might have been 91, there was a magic cruise on the SS Norway, which was a former ocean liner called the SS France, but the Norwegian Cruise Line bought it. It was an old school ocean liner, SS Norway, and they had a magic convention at sea, basically, and for the public could watch our shows, but also we had lectures and things like that. So I was on the ship. Rudy Kobe was on the ship. Jeff Hobson, Amos Levkovich, Billy McComb, Lauren Michael. There were all kinds of great people on the ship. If I can dig up the photo, I'll send it to you. I actually have a photo of and John Fisher was there with his wife. Now, Rudy, we to be together. Rudy and Jeff and I, we kept doing crazy things. We were somebody decided to shoot a murder mystery, so we made a magical murder mystery on the ship with different people playing different roles. And Billy McComb was played a role. He was great, by the way. He was the best part of that cruise, just hanging with Billy. One day, we snuck a Hustler magazine under his door, Rudy and I, and he didn't come to breakfast the next day. And we said, "Uh-oh, we've killed him," He came to lunch and he sat down and we had his pipe, and all he said was, "I think someone's trying to kill me," and he put the pipe back in his mouth. That was the only mention he made of it. But he was fantastic. Anyway, we were getting up to so many funny antics and interrupting each other's acts and just having so much fun. Me, Rudy, and Jeff. John Fisher was standing back going, "I could make a show out of these three crazy young Yanks. There's a show there." Because we were everybody was so entertained by all the stuff we came up with.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. That's where he got the idea. And then he approached each of us and said, let's do this show. We'll call. So Rudy was the, and the promo picture was Rudy with a beaker with green liquid and smoke coming out the top. Jeff Hobson, who played the very flamboyant, campy character with a frilly jacket and the sparkles. And he had a cocktail with all the fruit and umbrellas and so forth. And I was the everyman. I just had a suit and tie, and I had a pint of beer,
Yeah.
And so that was basically it. We got these three young characters of three different types. It's kind of like an early illusionist, you have these archetypes. And then he filled the gaps with Joe Pasquale and the Pendragons and other guest performers. We kind of fill in some of the gaps. But I believe there were 6 episodes. And we featured in all 6 episodes, and then he had some guest performers throughout.
Was there
largely the Pendragons and Joe Pasquale.
Yes, yeah. Was there a 1 hour special made of this ever? Or was it just the
No,
6-part series?
I can't remember.
I can't remember. It was a
haven't
while
seen
ago.
I haven't even seen an episode since the 90s, so I don't know. I have some recollections of it, but
Also, something Jack wanted me to ask was on Magic Day or Sleight of Dave or maybe Dave 2. There's extra clips, and it looks like it was shot for Magic Comedy Strip. There's a bit with the infamous Murray, and you're dressed in like
Murray.
a genie outfit, and you're floating on like a.
I think that happened
carpet.
in one of the episodes. A friend of mine came up with a method for having a swami with crossed legs sitting on a bed of nails with a large cape, and you float up about it, and you're floating around the stage with your crossed legs, and you're holding your cape out. You're actually standing inside the cape with fake legs strapped around your abdomen. It was a funny gag, more of a clown gag than a fooling illusion. So we did a bit where I'm floating around, and Murray kind of grabs my cape and reveals my legs,
Yes.
And I don't know if it made it to the final edit, but I somehow had that clip and I threw it on, sent it to my brothers who put it in the Sleight of Dave, or Dave 2 video.
It's in one of them because you float around going na 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 na.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is my brothers being bored and stupid, but and then that was where the infamous Murray clip came from, the Magic Comedy Strip, and I tell the whole story behind. In the extended clip, did you ever see that at the?
Oh, when they found Murray,
we found Murray 20 years
Murray.
later, and we had the reunion. Yeah, the return of Murray,
and you finally got to do the trick again. John Archer helping you out a little bit there.
Oh my gosh, that was a highlight for me. Just seeing Murray again after all those years and being able to kind of prank him gently,
Yeah,
because also
because I remember watching when I was a kid. The Magic Comedy Strip, only vaguely. I wasn't super into magic when I was young. I was just into lots of stuff.
Yeah.
But that clip of Murray saying, "There's another one under there," I've seen that 100,000 times because of all it'll be all right
all
on the
night
shows.
bloopers reels and when things go wrong type shows. And now on the internet, it's got a new life,
Yeah.
Young magician pulls one over the sad sack old guy, and but back in the day, before the internet, they would show it a lot on TV shows in the UK, and I would get residual checks.
I was going to ask, did you actually get
Murray's get 100 pounds here, or $50 there, whatever it was. But, I got several of those checks over the years.
Murray, Murray, Murray. Now watch very closely. We have 3 cards.
No, there's 4. I can see another one under this one.
Thanks very much, Murray. Let's hear it for Murray. Murray! That was my career, Murray!
I did want to ask if you actually did you ever count up how much money Murray made?
It wasn't much.
It wasn't much, but it was especially like if it's shown on a BBC show. You get 17
I bought
pence.
Murray a pint at that convention. I think he was old enough at that point.
That's probably plenty. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, I think he probably would have been in the 2000s.
He was 26 when we reunited.
When you found him, and where did he come from? Was it an audition, or was he just like a friend of someone on the production? That's normally.
He was the son of a costumer. Yeah.
Got you.
Somebody in wardrobe. It was his son who was hanging around the set, so we just used him.
Okay. So because this is Joe Pasquale, who was another sort of main cast member. I think he's in every episode. This was his first TV thing, and what did you think of him at the time? Because he's kind of our Britain's prop comic. Well, he was in the 90s, and he's still around now. He's still doing the moose head thing, and very recently, I think maybe pre-pandemic, he was in a pantomime here.
I didn't know who he was, and I thought it was very funny at the time. We actually shot different schedules, so I wasn't always hanging around. They would shoot him. Even they would bring us in to shoot and then send us back to America, and they continued.
So did you, or the US people? So it would have been you, Rudy, and Jeff. So you all filmed together? Because there are moments when you are together. You filmed a bit. You did a bit with Rudy as well when you were like a commentator, going like. And now Rudy Kobe will try and replace the helium from this balloon with the air in his
remember the
lungs.
show? Yeah, you must have.
I rewatched it. Yeah,
I remember that bit. Yeah, he had a levitating.
Yeah.
So he could make his voice go really high, like a helium balloon. So that was the bit. He went up as they went down, or vice versa, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's lots of good fun bits, and what's funny as well is I wouldn't these days also because Jeff Hobson has also done The Illusionists, right? In the semi.
He was the original. He was in the original cast for years. He was the original sort of comedy MC trickster.
Yeah. Because also I wouldn't, if I was programming a show, I'd think, Williamson and Hobson are they fulfill the same role, but you do different stuff. Although I see watching the show, rewatching the full series, it's kind of similar bits throughout if you did all of your full shows together, there would be similar bits, but it feels really different.
He did a lot of kind of more stand-up kind of cabaret, and they used me for more close-up kind of.
Yes, you're often at the table doing stuff,
but still some goofy things. Yeah, you're right about that. He had a different feel, different character, but we're both wacky kind of characters.
Yeah,
but Jeff is the funniest man in the world as far as I'm concerned. I worked he now runs a beautiful magic themed nightclub in San Diego, or outside of inside Palm Springs. And he's still as funny as ever and super charming. And he does the best watch steal of all. And I remember one thing from that show. His egg bag is fantastic. He does an egg bag routine, very funny. And at the end, he starts handing back watches that he's stolen from the audience. Sometimes as many as 5 or 6, and it's just the most impressive ending to any trick, because he goes out to the crowd and he does a trick with some ropes and he's sitting on people's laps and being funny and getting on their face. Meanwhile, he's just stealing watch after watch while he's out there.
Yeah, and the justification they're checking the rope. It's a perfect justification to be grabbing their wrist and trying to get that watch off.
During the rehearsal, the camera rehearsal, I'm in the audience. I'm kind of the only one sitting in the bleachers there. And they're doing camera blocking, and he comes out and he goes, and then I'll do this and I'll do that, and I'll probably move over here, and then I'll come back. And then he goes, and then he does the trick, and he goes, and at the end, I hand back the watches that I've stolen. And by the way, Dave, here's your watch. And I went, yeah, right. And I looked I go, oh my God. It was just what it's done to you. No idea. It's just so powerful. It was amazing. Yeah, and when we were on that cruise, in fact, before the show, I said to Jeff one night, he was about to go on, I go, just for me, see how many you can get. Go for the record, your career record on this show. He goes, okay. And he went out there, and I believe he had stolen 12 or 13 watches. They just kept coming out of his pockets and out of the thing, and he was just... It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Darren, how long did that take me to do that trick? What do you say? Quick? Couple of minutes. Oh, you would have no idea. See, I have your watch. Freak out. No big deal. Also have yours too, Steve. Yes, and of course yours too, Phil. Yes, and Justin up at the top. Could you guys come down and get yours, please, really quickly? And good floor there. Look. Come on and get your watches. Look. They're all here. Take it to watch. Look, there's another one. There's another one.
A couple of things, because I guess we go into another show. Another UK show, which I've covered on the podcast before, which is Stuff the White Rabbit, which would have been after this. Because myself, Richard Young, and John Lenahan, we covered every episode. We did it was our Christmas and New Year's Day special for the podcast.
Oh my gosh!
And there's some of your material, some of your sort of A materials in that, and a lot of your A materials in this. But where did the material in Magic Comedy Strip come from? Was this just your working stuff? Like you do coin in bottle in a really interesting way. You do silk to egg, but the version where it's a real egg the whole time, I assume.
Yeah, Carol Fox's version with a thumb tip in it. Yeah.
Because why bother with the gimmick if you just need an egg then?
Here's the thing. On all of these shows I've ever been on any TV show I've ever been on, I have no business being on television. I didn't have the material. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just said yes and show up and panic about what am I going to do. So I know a card trick. I'll do this card trick. And I don't have a clever presentation, so I'll yell a lot and try to be funny. And the energy is very weird. And directors don't like me. I move around too much. and it's not TV friendly. There are some people who know how to be on TV, and they're Luis DeMontos, David Copperfield, Lu Chen in China, Darren Brown. They understand where the camera is. Shin Lim, people who look good and understand. I'm a mess. I don't belong on. I never worked a comedy club in my life. I'm not disciplined performer. I did corporate shows. I did this. I did a private party. I would do that. And it wasn't until later in life I got a little disciplined and started kind of thinking about what I was doing in my 50s when I started doing, Disney Cruise Line and The Illusionist and Circus 1903, things like that. I got a little more disciplined. But I had no business being on TV back in the day, and it shows when you watch these things. A bit of a mess, a bit of anarchy. But, I think Stuff the White Rabbit, that's what that show was about. Non-traditional performing scenarios and non-traditional people who you wouldn't normally see present polite magic and do it properly and so forth. So I kind of fit what they were looking for. They had Amazing Jonathan on there and Mullica, and they had some really great people. And then me, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And we made stuff up on the set there. They go, what else can you do? I go, I don't know. Give me a thumb tip. I'll do the silk and egg. I don't have a presentation for it. And Stuff the White Rabbit, there was Jerry Sadowitz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who
some very memorable appearance.
Yes, I heard the story as well, the thing that was never shown, where he came out naked.
Yeah, I was there. And we were there. David Jones of Manchester. I don't know if you know David or not. Wonderful card magician. But
yes, that name rings a bell. Yes.
He and I were always checking where the exits were because we thought there was going to be a riot. When the cameras go off, Jerry whips up the crowd with hatred. He feeds off negative energy, insulting this Manchester audience, And then the cameras come on and he goes, here's a very nice little trick. And then they would go off and he did all the lady at the table ugly and all this stuff. And David and I was like, we don't know to laugh or run or what's going to happen next. It was crazy.
Yes. Also, he's a big fan of, it's a relatively popular word here, very not popular in the US, a swear word, the C word.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And he's a big fan of
liberally.
That.
Yeah, he loves
yes,
that
liberally. And also, I think he was, Lenahan spoke about, he was sat there just before the cameras rolling going, I mustn't call them. I mustn't call them.
Yeah.
But he's wild. And also, some of his, all of those Stuff Like Rabbits are in the empty safe. And obviously, Sadowitz doesn't know about it because he doesn't like video clips of himself. Despite the fact that the magic he does is incredible and unique and original.
Wonderful.
Incredible stuff.
When I first started coming to the UK, he had plenty of time for me because I was a nobody. And we just had wonderful sessions together. And then I got a little notoriety, and it was like, okay, I'm done with you now. And I think I have a lot of friends who have that shared experience, But I always
that sounds like a familiar tale.
I always thought he was brilliant, and he did slag me off in the crimp. He said, I don't like that David Williamson. He's too nice. And I was like, I will take that from Jerry Sadowitz. I don't think.
In a way, that's a compliment from him.
It was a fantastic compliment from him. Yeah.
Into the pocket. Into the pocket they go. All the way in. Except for this one. Which stays out here with this one. Yes! And there it is, a big finish. You lead the applause. Jump up and down. Go nuts. Wait till I finish. There it is. The middle's in the pocket. Mr. Structural Engineer is going to examine everything and verify. Yes! Yes!
Because you were on a lot of UK TV shows then in the early 90s. Was it just because we want something, we want that David Williamson energy?
A little manic, crazy energy or something. I'm not sure what it was, to be honest. I can't answer that question, but...
you didn't ask questions at the time. You're like...
I didn't ask questions. I just say, yes, you want to bring me to England, put me on TV? Okay. Nobody in America will see the mess I'm about to make, so yes, I'll do it. But I didn't have a career plan. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm just going from gig to gig, job to job, confused young person. And it shows.
But I think that's why a lot of magicians like you, especially watching your older stuff from the 90s when you're on TV. So Stuff the White Rabbit, the Magic Comedy Strip, stuff from World's Greatest Magic. You did a couple of those. I think magicians
Yeah,
like it because what they see is another working magician who's
a
been asked to be
guy,
on TV.
yeah, exactly, a gigging magician who was asked to do a show and he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. They can relate to that, It's like if Williamson can get on there, I can. Completely undisciplined and scrambling for some sort of presentation. Yeah.
But even in Magic Comedy Strip, you do a coin matrix, but you kind of do it what I refer to as like the proper way, where it's just sleight of hand. When you're just sliding them
I don't
around,
remember
really.
that. I
Also,
really
you have an
don't.
ambitious card routine that you do, which I think is maybe it's your cocktail. What's it called? Cocktail Dazzler? Maybe it's part
No,
of
it's
that.
just no, I think on that show I just did ambitious card. I didn't have the multiple.
Yes, but then you did that thing where you showed 3. I've got duplicates.
Yeah,
of your
that's
card.
how I would end the. It wasn't quite the cocktail dazzle. That's how I used to end the ambitious card. I would just show it's here, there, everywhere, and then they all vanish, and then it's somewhere else.
But it's the fact that I think magicians like you especially is because you're doing it all properly. There's a point if you watch closely, you're doing a pinky count to get to the break, which is the thing that you do, and that your doubles are just beautiful and perfect.
That's
And then you
back
sort
when
of
I was
smash
good.
cut
I used to be good.
Back when I was good. But then you jump cut to sort of the late 90s when it's David Blaine, and it's like he's a very good magician, but it's kind of it's holding a double like I would, which is like this. Do not look at this like you're holding a bomb. Is how Richard Young would describe
I
it.
remember sitting on the. I used to go up to New York City and sit with my buddy Bill Kalush a lot. I've known him since he was 16, and we're good friends. And I'd go up and hang out with him, and this kid would all the time and go, "Hey, I've been working on this thing," and we'd like go, "Yeah, keep working, go now. The big adults are talking. Go away." And the next thing I know, this kid is on late night TV going, "I have a special coming up on." I go, "What? That's the kid that we shoo away from the table," and it was David Blaine, And I worked on a couple of his early specials.
Oh, he
And,
makes a cameo in one of your DVD. Jack being such a fan of yours, he's seen everything of yours. It's you. He comes up to you in the street. Which one is that? It's not Magic
Oh,
Farm.
we did something at FISM. I was
it.
spoofing Blaine on the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he was standing there going, "That's not how it's done," or something. David's a great guy, and I got to know him pretty well when we worked together. And I'm just so impressed with what he's done, for Magic and in his career, and gone, beyond double
Yes,
lifts.
it's true. And also on this podcast, talking about old Magic specials, TV shows, there's definitely a pre-David Blaine world and a post-David Blaine world. Like it looked like Magic Comedy Strip. It's a studio. There's a studio audience.
Exactly.
It's so shiny, it's bright. And now it's just follow a guy around with a camera.
Time it was Survivor, it was reality TV, it was Cops.
Yeah.
In fact, it was the producer of Cops who made his first show, and he was casting. He wanted to find a David Blaine, and he found him. And let's turn the camera around. The big innovation was it's not about the trick; it's about the reaction to the trick, and that was the big, because in Cops, the audience spiked when people are running away, being bleeped out because they're cursing.
Yeah.
And if we can get people to run away during this Magic special, bleeping them out while they're cursing, that's watchable TV. The audience spikes it. So that's what they went for. Let's get people to curse and run away. And they would go to Uptown. I know Paul Harris worked on that first special, and they'd get on the bus and they'd shoot in New York on Fifth Avenue and Central Park. And people would go, "Oh, that's cute. We need to get Biffy to look at this for his birthday." And so forth. And they go, "We're not getting the reactions. Nobody's cursing and running away. Let's go down to the Bowery. Let's go to Harlem. Let's go to find some junkies."
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
Let's get people,
There's that
find
famous
some people
clip.
who are going to react over the top to this stuff.
Yes,
And
there's
that's
that
what the
famous
show's
clip of that
about.
guy. He's dressed like he's like some hipster guy in the 70s. Like, I don't know who this guy. He just does invisible deck on him, and he's just like he waxes lyrical for like a minute and a half to the camera.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, what's your name? David. David. This guy's amazing. Don't know if he's selling something. If he's touched by God. Yeah. Which is just such a stark contrast to a show that John Fisher might have made. It's so,
Exactly. Yeah.
so
You're
strange.
right about that. You're right about, or Gary Roulette, produced
Yes,
all the
exactly.
world's greatest Magic shows and so forth. Yeah.
Because you did World's Greatest Magic as well.
Yeah,
Didn't you?
and again, it's because Gary Roulette used to go to Fechter's convention all the time. I didn't know that he was a TV producer. I didn't even know he was a lawyer. I didn't know who he was. He was just a friendly guy who would be there every year when I used to go up to the 4F convention at the old Forks Hotel in Buffalo, where Eddie Fechter, held court. And it was a little invited convention, only 100 magicians every year. And Bill Malone and I would just cut up all the time. And Gary Roulette laughed the loudest. He just loved our antics, right? He loved everything we did because we were just goofing off, kind of like John going, I can make a show out of this. Gary Roulette, whenever he put his producer hat on and started making these shows, he said, I need somebody to do the needle trick for this Houdini special. He called me, and I go, I don't even know how it's done. Why are you calling me? I think it would be funny to watch you do it. And I go, get Teller. He does it. No, we don't want Teller. Get Gary Kurtz. Get Steve Spill. All these guys who I knew did great versions of the needle. I go, okay, I'll do it. I don't belong on TV, but I'll do it. Where's the sewing kit, Marcia? Like, we got to learn this trick, And then he called me for another thing in Monaco. And I was like on a helicopter flying into Monaco from Nice Airport, to the casino there going, I don't belong here. Don't they know that? And I didn't. And so I did a few of those specials for Gary.
Everybody count with me. Come a little closer, guys. 1, 2, 3. Yes! He did. He's dead. But in his final breath, he caught the Jack of Clubs. Was that your card? Unbelievable. Let's hear it for all my friends. Take a bow, everybody. Take a bow.
I like the running theme here is that you're just... This is something I've done, and it's what I'll tell Jack, which is say yes, and then just work out what to do later.
That's exactly right. Well, they always say that about acting, too. 90% of the job is showing up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I do believe that. That's what I've been doing my whole career. I show up. And
also with acting, they say like, know your lines, know the show. And I guess with magic, it's know your material, know how to do this. So you can just
know what you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Have a grab.
And that's the nice thing about having a close-up background. You could just, I know a million little things, gags and tricks I've learned from I call my crazy uncles. I used to watch Carol Fox and Jay Marshall and Al Goshman and, all the old school guys who I just loved, Slidini and Del Rey. And, they had a million little tricks and gags and things they could do. And I got a good education when I was young.
I'm remembering in Magic Comedy Strip, you do coin in bottle. Then you do the gag when you smash the bottle in the bag, but then it's still restored, which I'm not really sure how it works. But it's just
Billy
funny...
McComb was helping me with that, actually. And
I see.
Yeah, I just had a tumbler in the bottom of the bag, another glass that gets smashed. You put the bottle, it's just a little deeper than the bottle, so there's a little cocktail glass in there, and you put the bottle in, but you keep the bottle up at the top, but it looks like it drops to the bottom, and you hit it with a hammer. And you go, here, reach in and take the coin out. Of course, they're not going to reach in because they feel like it's broken glass, and then you can reach in and pull the full bottle out and the coin or something. I forget exactly what the ending is.
But it's also just a lot of your stuff in general it's kind of the simplest solution. You have to work harder as a technician. But like with your the famous 3-card trick, it's the simplest solution, but it's not easy. But it's easier than having the little gimmick cards to do like a
you see how well I do with gimmicks with Murray, right? I'm not good.
Yeah, that's that what so cemented that as like that's a no from me.
I'm done with gimmicks. I'm done with flaps. I'm done with shreds. Anything that is persnickety.
Also, there's a story that Lenahan told on the podcast about when you did your salt trick, saline solution, during Stuff the White Rabbit. Did the cameras break down or something halfway through? You're with this lovely lady who you vanish the salt, it's in the cup, and then there's a moment where you get super manic in the classic Williamson way. And then I think Lenahan was talking about the fact that, I think the cameras all broke down then. So he just left you out there having to entertain the crowd while you're halfway through the routine? Or is
I
this something you
have
just
no-
don't remember?
I mean,
'Cause
of
it's
course,
20 years ago.
I don't remember. It's more than 20 years ago.
Oh, it's more than 20 years ago, yeah.
30 years ago almost, or more.
I see. Or maybe
But
Lenahan's forgot to.
Lanahan, well, he probably has a better memory. He's one of those I call people like John is organized thinker. He,
He's putting everything in boxes in his mind. There
oh,
we go.
John's great. We had fun.
Yes.
And Chris Power was on there, and Noel Britton
Yes.
had a cameo.
Yes, he did.
I don't know if it ever made it to air, but we did a little Hannibal Lecter type skit.
Oh, I've seen that clip. I think it was used in a commercial for the show.
Yeah,
But I don't
they
think it was
wheeled
ever on
me
the show.
in as Hannibal Lecter with a straitjacket and a mask, and Chris was the security guard, the big burly, and it was Noel Britton had the lab coat. He played this, the psychiatric doctor attending me.
Yeah.
And I'm the world's greatest magician, but I'm a madman. And so he says, we have a card selected. So Chris, who's an expert card magician, but he just looks like a big burly, has somebody pick a card, and he expertly palms it, and gets it to me. My straight jacket. I forget the exact routine, but I had a dog foam with a tube, so I'm foaming at the mouth, and foam was shooting out of the thing, and then eventually the card, I forget where it ends up, but it ends up inside my mask or something like that, because Chris was doing all the hard work, but he looked like he was just facilitating by handing the cards back and forth or something.
That's good. I don't think that made the edit, but probably because BBC Two.
Good. I think it was a mess.
Yeah.
We thought it was funny at the time, but when you do something, you never know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned that by working on a few TV shows.
That's true. Yeah, sometimes. And if it makes the edit, it's even worse because you're like, oh, they put this in.
Well, on that, I worked on a couple of playing specials, and one of them, we'd go off on these little retreats to work on ideas, and basically it was just we went to Vegas. No work got done. No work got done. He had Bill Malone,
I've been this close to doing that with some people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like there was no work.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things was walking around Central Park, mysterious man walking in the park, and he's doing a card trick for a guy, and they notice a dead bird, a dead pigeon laying in the grass, and Blaine goes, "Let me try something," picks it up, and he rubs it, and it comes to life and flies away. It's the creation of life, it's like this Jesus. But what you don't see is 3 days of me and Bill Kalush walking 200 yards in front of him with birdseed, a giant marine net 6 feet in diameter, catching pigeons, stuffing them in boxes, and then spinning them like this with their heads going around so they hypnotize, and we lay them in the grass. Originally, they had a gimmick built that would swap a dead pigeon for a live pigeon, and it was buried in the ground prop. But one of the technicians said, "Why don't you just hypnotize it? Like the farmers do before they, at the farm, you spin them around and they'll just lay there, fall asleep."
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up doing. And for 3 days, we're walking ahead of him, and the squirrel would bother it, or a blade of grass would away, and we couldn't get a good shot. And finally, there's a man walking through Central Park with his pet parrot on his shoulder, of all things. And David Blaine's doing magic for him, and the guy notices the dead bird. He goes, "Oh," we're going, "This is perfect." After 3 days, this guy with a bird on his shoulder notices the dead bird before David does. What great television. I was like, "Please tell me you have the lens cap on," whatever. We've had so many problems. So he does the thing, the bird flies away, and it was perfect. It was perfectly shot, executed. Took 3 days to get that moment. And then what they aired, when it aired, they kept this in. They go to commercial after the bird flies away. But right before they go to commercial, you hear the guy with the bird go, "Wow, I didn't know you could train him to do that." And I'm watching this at home going, who left that in?
Yeah.
Now, in subsequent versions of that show, when they repeated it, they cut that out, thank God.
They took that audio out.
But yeah, they took that audio out.
Look at that. 4 birds. Look at the 4 birds.
at that. Look at that. Look at that.
It's okay.
Look at that. It's feeling
all right.
better.
You're okay. Come back. Come on.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? What do you think, huh? Incredible. Did you think it was amazing? What did you think? Were you amazed? She's totally freaked out. I've never seen her this.
You need an editor who knows what they're
Oh my gosh,
doing.
you got to have a magician. That's what Ricky Jay told me many years ago. He goes, if you're going to be on TV, there's two things you need to know. He goes, first, you got to be an asshole. I go, well, you got that. And second, you have to have a friend in the booth with the director going, not that shot, not that shot. And he was right about that. He's right about that, because once you leave, you have no power.
Yeah.
And for the edit, you have no power, and there's no magicians left when they're putting the show together. So we did a promo in South Africa for The Illusionists, and they had us on a show, and then we were pre-taping this interview, and they had Den Den, our wonderful magician from Japan, doing a little close-up thing. And we're going, now, don't use that camera angle. And they're going, well, we won't use that. That's just a live shot, but we're not going to use that when we cut this together. And Terrence, our stage manager, and I kept looking at each other going, they're going to use, they're going to use. And sure enough, we found out they were live cutting. So Terrence walked in front of the camera halfway through the trick and just ruined it. It's not, they go, take that camera out, or he's not doing, you need to do that. You have to have that kind of power. If you can. Now, of course, you go on a big show, you don't always have that power. But John Fisher knew magic. He had Charlie Reynolds, his magic consultant, very knowledgeable man, in the booth and so forth. So, when you do like a Penn and Teller show, they have Mike Close or Johnny Thompson, rest his soul, watching out for the magicians, and they're very careful. But when you do some of these other TV shows, they don't care.
Yeah, they're not there to help you. Once this happened to me, we were promoting Champions of Magic. I was doing a thing with 2 billets, and just because of technical reasons, I couldn't get my first peak. And I just thought, well, maybe if they keep it in, a failure than a success, maybe that looks good. But what they actually did is like, let's cut the bit out when he got it wrong. So now in the video, it looks like the purest piece of mind reading you've ever seen. She writes something down, sits on it, and it's never seen again. I look like an absolute genius.
Yeah. Well,
that's the one time I got lucky.
In your favor, sometimes, that happened in Spain with some people I know who they just cut out the deck switch, and it was like, genius,
Yeah, you can now no longer put it back together.
Yeah.
That's reminded. I think the podcast that comes out before this one, it was a friend of mine. He had a pilot many years ago, 2006, and he's doing. Do you remember the time machine watches? There's a watch that would just keep going. And when you put it this way, it would stop.
Yes, of course. Yeah. A stall watch kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's him doing that, but he's pattering for a long time because he's just waiting for it to get to the called for time. And they didn't cut any of that.
Oh, that's difficult. Yeah.
It's just lots of him doing this. So you could have named any time. And it's like, and this was the transmission pilot.
The David Letterman show was a very popular late night show here, and he used to have a magic week, and he had some great magicians on. He had Michael Amar, and Steve Cohen did it, and my buddy John Carney did it. And they said, we want you to do this trick. He submitted some tricks, and they go, why don't you do this cup and ball trick with the hat and so forth. And he goes, great. Will we do it at a little table down in the front? He goes, no, you have to do it at Dave's desk. And he goes, well, he's to my left and I'm right-handed, and they go, do you want to do the show or not? Yeah, so I'll do a different thing. No, we want you to do that trick. I'll have to learn it. He has this well that he keeps drinks or something in between me. Are we going to put a board, like a close-up mat? No. We want you to look good. No, you don't. You obviously don't. You put me on the wrong side. You're making me do this. John had to learn the trick backwards, do the thing. Wow. And he gets there for the camera rehearsal. He goes, what's that camera up there? It's shooting right into his bag where he keeps the big cantaloupe for the final load,
Yeah.
And they go, we won't use that shot. Don't worry. He trusted him. And sure enough, that's the only shot. That's the shot they used during the load. I mean, you see everything.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think they did it to screw him. I just think they don't know any better. They don't know magic. They're not paying attention. They don't care.
Yeah,
And
they're
he
not
was
thinking
kind of
about the tricks. That's your job, and yeah, you're right. That's good. You have to be an arsehole, though. That's
yeah.
good. That's a good quote from
That's
Ricky
good. It was
Jay.
good advice from
You have to
Ricky
be an
Jay. You have
arsehole.
to be an asshole sometimes.
Or have someone in the room who can be the arsehole for you. Your manager.
Exactly. Or bring
You know.
bring your backup asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. Bring your backup arsehole. I want to see if there's anything else in particular. I mean, I wrote down sort of all the tricks I think I could remember you did on this. But a lot of it's just your classics. Ring on rope, you're ambitious, you did your Soldier Egg. There's the
I only knew like 4 or 5 tricks.
But that's
Yeah,
what I
well-
really like, because I'm a big fan of Penn and Teller and I've watched their career. And you
Yeah.
just watch, until Fool Us happened, when they had to do something brand new every show, they've got 7 things.
Yeah.
Which is the true kind of original performance thing. You know, you need 7 tricks and you just do them over and over.
You need
again.
7 tricks. You do it for thousands of people. Yeah.
And but these days that's changed because you need new stuff for the internet to look at all the time. Whereas
Exactly.
in the UK,
and
4 years
you have
before you did the same tricks, but now it's on BBC Two. Now it's on ITV.
Well, that's
no
the
one's
problem
seen
with TV. It really eats material up, and you can't. And that's why I was never really a TV magician. I can't just come up with new ideas all the time.
brand
I'm
new
not.
stuff. Yeah.
And I don't like. And there's something in my brain that won't let me go buy a store-bought trick necessarily. You know what I
have
mean?
that too.
And
Yeah.
I just it's like if it doesn't come from me, if I haven't made a major change to it, there's something keeps me from doing it. I know I'd have a much more successful career if I would just buy these tricks and go do them.
Yeah.
But something's keeping me from that. I have to put a twist on it.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's that thing
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's that thing of like I could very easily put together an hour show just by buying some stuff and putting it, and it would be great. It would be fine, very entertaining. But I just can't do it.
I know there's something keeping me too from that. But anyway, and it's not integrity. Maybe it's laziness or something.
Yeah, I think it's laziness for me too. Something I thought about was someone described that video, which we spoke about earlier, where it's the David Williamson magic tapes. Someone has called it the David Williamson show. Was that ever a thing?
It's called the Man Who Knows Magic Shop.
That's it.
Yeah.
But was there ever a conversation with you, or if they ever got any further, of David Williamson having an actual TV show or anything like that? Maybe in the UK because of the stuff you did, or the US, or anything like that?
Several,
yes. Was it many? Was it just that sort of nonsense of? There's a lot of conversations these days. They're emails and Zoom meetings, but like, was it just? Did they ever get anywhere? Or was this?
Yeah. Some of them did, some of them didn't. I knew Anthony Owen pretty well, and he was a friend, and he would call me every once in a while and pitch me ideas, and it was again about the time that reality TV was taking over. It's like, how we have this idea where you come and do magic, and we have a team of comedians who take the piss while you. I go, why would I do that? Subject myself to humiliation that just to be on TV. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. So he was always kind of pitching different things, and I had I've had some serious meetings with other people in the UK about more TV. TV's not my medium. I'm sorry. I'm not enamored with television the way a lot of my friends can't wait to get on TV and try and want to. And it's like it's not my career and TV. They don't mesh. It's I hate watching myself. I understand the power of broadcast TV. I do. I understand. And it doesn't pay that well. But what it does, it gets people in the theater, which can pay well. It can pay well over time if you're lucky enough to get more and more popular, and then it turns into a career. And as Penn Jillette said, once you become famous, your job becomes staying famous.
Yeah,
you got to feed your publicist, your manager. You got to feed your to consult your accountant, your lawyer. You got to feed all these people who have families. So you start accepting different things, and you got the openings of shopping malls, and you do things, and it becomes a thing.
Yeah. Your job just becomes being famous, yeah. Yeah,
it is. But anyway, but years ago, I got a call. I mean, this is a long story, but Mark Wilson was my hero when I was a kid on television, the Magic Circus and other shows that he did. He was the big TV magician before Copperfield, Mark Wilson. And He saw me at FISM in, I think, Dresden. I can't tell you what year that was. It was in the 80s. And I went a little crazy and had a lot of fun, and everybody liked it. And I just had, to me, magic conventions are playground, experimental
Hmm.
playground. I'm not serious at all when I perform there, and I have a lot of fun, so people take notice. But I've always gotten work after a magic convention because I have so much fun at them. And people go, "That guy's having fun, and let's use him for our thing, TV show or the whatever." So he was trying to pitch a show called a Saturday morning TV show for kids and recreate his show, The Magic Circus, starring his son, Greg Wilson.
Mhm.
And the producers weren't seeing it. They weren't seeing it. They did some tests and so forth. And he goes, "I have another guy in mind." Because he had just seen me in Fit. So he flew me to LA. I did a little audition in the basement of the castle, and everybody signed on board. And they got the producer, Alan Sachs, who was this Hollywood hustler. He had created some TV shows for ABC years ago, Welcome Back, Kotter, and some other things. And it's this crazy guy, real hustler. And he believed in me. I was young and crazy, and he was older and crazy. And at that point, he started introducing me around to different producers, and we ended up at Disney. And Disney loved me. We did an audition for him. They go, "Here, go shoot this. Go shoot a little demo. I got to." One of the Disney producers, I got to go show it to Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg and get my slate of shows okay to start production. And we didn't shoot what he told us to shoot. We went out on the street, crazy woman's dress, and I bought things from cars, and I was doing magic for people on the highway. And it was before David Blaine, but I was doing street magic, but really funny, going to flea markets and just making things up. And we gave him the tape. He goes, "I can't show this to them. This is what is this?" That's what we came up with. My brothers edited it, and he goes, "All right," because he took it in, and he came out the next day, and he said, "That's the only thing they green lighted of all my projects." So they greenlighted this crazy show starring me, being wacky, Saturday morning kids show. We got writers. The people who created Pee-wee's Playhouse, the director of that was our writer, John Paragon. He played John B. the Genie in Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Oh
We
yeah.
wrote a show called the Magic, what was it called? The Magic Factory. And we had Joe Walsh from the Eagles do the theme song. "We're going to the magic." He made this whole package. We had
Eagles,
meetings
yeah.
with Mattel. We were going to have kids in the audience, but plus puppets, like rabbit puppets of Marlowe and Vernon. And I had an Evelina the witch up on the hill, and I'm the guy at the Magic Factory trying to get the magic out the door. And it was a crazy Saturday morning kids show. And we had a slot. We had a slot for Saturday morning. And I was living with Mike Caveney at the time in Pasadena and traveling to Disney studios every day, working on this project. And once again, I called Marsha. I go, "We're done. This is going to be huge. We have a Saturday morning slot. For every slot, there's 12 shows in production,
Right.
hoping for that slot. And for each of those 12 shows, there's another 12 shows hoping for that slot to get a slot to be in a slot. That's
Right,
the way
right.
Hollywood works. There's people on spec. There's people sitting in offices writing scripts and buying IP, and it's just a big rat's nest and a
Yeah.
viper's nest.
Yeah.
And all of the things that all the cliches you hear about Hollywood and that industry are true. I lived them all, the shady producers and backdoor deals and stabbing in the back. And it came down to me signing a contract. And in order for me, they put the pin in my hand. My hand is going toward the thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, now Mark Wilson is not part of this deal anymore. Before the Disney, there's several layers of producers. We cut him out. He doesn't need to be a part. And I go, "He's who brought me into this.
Hmm.
How bad do you want it?" And I had to think about that. I had to think about how bad I wanted it.
Wow.
And apparently I didn't want it that bad. I called my wife and I go, "I'm not going to stab my hero in the back with this ink pen. I care about magic. I came up in the community of magicians. These are the people who, my family, and I don't want fame and fortune over, being able to
Yeah.
live with myself and over stepping over Mark." And who does that? Apparently, there are people who do that. I don't know, but wasn't going to be one of them. I go, plus, do we want to raise our kids in Los Angeles and
Yeah.
have to drive there? And so I didn't sign, and that whole thing went away. Just like the infomercial. So there were a few things like that. They used to call me out there. After that, these producers got to know me. I had friends go, "How did you get in the door at Disney?" I was chasing Michael Eisner's secretary around with a raccoon. They were looking for projects for me. The woman who put just and Kathy Lee together, which is a famous morning show in America, and also brought Who Wants to Be a Millionaire from Europe. She's a Disney producer. She loved me. She was looking for projects for me. She died of lupus during this period. And, it's all these kind of things and then nobody knew my name. I couldn't get, and nobody would answer my calls at that. So the brass ring was right there in front of me. And I took a couple tries at it. It didn't work out. And to be honest, I'm not sorry for it. I'm not sorry for it.
Yeah. Because from your description, I think a lot of listeners would have loved to have seen that show. But I
would have loved to have seen it. I think it was a really fun show, and we had Wayne White, who did all the puppets for Pee-wee's Playhouse, all the characters, working on our characters and puppets, and it was going to be wonderful. But the cost was too high.
Yeah,
the
personal tax on your soul is too high.
I couldn't have lived with myself,
Quite right too. Wow, that's amazing.
But there were other moments like that where they would call me out and go, "We want you to host this game show," and I was like, you know what? I know how this works. I go, you blow a lot of smoke. There's no money. Meanwhile, I've just turned down 4 corporate shows that would have paid my mortgage for the next 6 months, and things like that. And it's like I can't keep on this gerbil wheel in LA, and I know people who've been out there for decades doing that. I stepped off the merry-go-round, and my mental health went way up after that.
Yes, I was going to say that's an important thing to bear in mind. It's like, am I okay? Because chasing the dragon is not going to help, is it?
Yeah,
and some people still kind of are. It's like,
exactly.
Anyway, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting.
But now you have the internet, and you have YouTube, and you have people who can make their own shows, and there aren't these creepy gatekeepers. And there are Netflix specials that have been self-produced, but still play for millions of eyeballs. So the world has changed, and the opportunities are so great now. There are many ways to be successful in magic, as there are people doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was it like, just briefly, what was it like? So Stuff the White Rabbit, you were all there. It was up in Manchester. It was filmed, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And were you there for like a week? And were you just all staying in a hotel and then staying up late and sessioning and then having to film? Was it all a bit crazy? Or is it, honestly,
I think so. I don't remember. It was so long ago, and it was a whirlwind. And it was completely nuts. So I don't have any specific memories. Now, was Amazing Jonathan on Stuff the White Rabbit, or was he on Comedy Magic Strip?
He was on Stuff the White Rabbit, yeah.
So I'll tell you an Amazing Jonathan story. I get there to Manchester, and we're all in the restaurant talking, and I'm completely jet lagged. I go, oh, I can't. He goes, here, take one of these. And never take a pill that the Amazing Jonathan hands you. It was a little blue pill, tiny. I go, this little thing, what's that? I took it. I was stupid. Again, young and stupid. And he goes, oh, you'll sleep like a baby. You'll feel fresh tomorrow. Well, I start getting groggy. And, a few minutes later, I go, I got to go to my room. So I go to my room. The next thing I know, the sun is shining through the window. The birds are chirping. My legs, my bed is still made. I'm sitting on the corner of the bed. My feet are flat on the floor, 2 feet on the floor with my shoes on. My pants have been pulled down to my ankles as if I'm about to take off my pants, but I must have just fallen over backwards. I put and then I just fell over backwards and stayed there for however many hours, 10 hours, woke up in that position. And the next day I said, what was that you gave me? He goes, oh, it's a new drug over the counter. I got it in Australia. It's called Rohypnol. And on the way home trip, I'm reading in the airplane, the cover of Time magazine that said, Rohypnol, the date rape drug.
Oh my
I
God!
was like,
yeah.
I think I raped myself that night. I don't know.
That was your first sign. Was Amazing Jonathan going, here, take
Yeah,
this.
here, take this. It was like, and I'm like stupid.
Yeah. You're just crazy on stage, right? No, he wasn't.
no.
No. Amazing story. Thank you so much, Dave. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to talk to you about.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. I love talking about these old TV shows. And on Slight School, if I could do a little pitch,
It's
if
wonderful.
people go to slightschool.com, one of our new members has been putting up great copies of some vintage, great old magic shows.
Yes, Jack's been sharing them with me because I do
There's
this
some
podcast. And
wonderful
they're
old
great.
shows from the 80s and 90s that have been lost to time that I've been, in fact, one of them called the World Magic Awards or International Magic Awards, and Hobson
Yes.
is doing Card and Mouth with my older brother Bob. I forgot all about it until I saw that
Really?
this week. Yeah, Bob was in the audience and he picked him for the thing. And there's my brother who's passed away since. So it was lovely seeing that. So
That's
at
wonderful.
Flight School, there's a lot of great footage there. If anybody's interested in that kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, a great community of magicians.
It's a
and-
wonderful community. We get together
Yeah.
and talk magic and teach magic and
Yeah. It's really
have
great.
sessions and so forth. Anyway,
Great.
well, nice to see you, and thanks for inviting me to talk. Go down memory lane here of what I can
Pleasure.
remember.
Yeah, it's true. It was a while ago, so you've remembered plenty. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Huge thank you to David Williamson, the man, the myth, the legend that he is. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I had a great time talking to you. Wonderful stories. Thank you so much. Dear listeners, if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me at ttmotvpod@gmail.com. That's ttmotvpod@gmail.com. Now, if you'll excuse me, the ghost of Amazing Jonathan is here, and he's got something for me. See you next week.